You don't understand. She bullies me on purpose, yelled Liza at her own husband. Why can't you see the blinding obvious? She sighed heavily, trying to calm down, and after a few seconds continued more coolly. Either you are solving this issue or we are getting divorced. Igor gazed appallingly at his spouse. He couldn't even imagine to hear something like that. The room sank into a tense silence. However, such situation could have been avoided if the man had explained to his mother at a good time that interfering with his new family is intolerable. Elizabeth always dreamed about having a lavish wedding, a man who would love her until the rest of her life, an affectionate and loving family, and good connections with her mother-in-law. The dreams could have come true when she finally met Igor. The man courted her in every possible way, gifted flowers, and showered her with compliments. He proposed to her during their trip to the beach, and such a romantic gesture melted her heart. Elizabeth said yes, believing that all her life would be a pure fairy tale, but everything went the opposite way. Right after the wedding day, mother-in-law Tamara Georgievna started to constantly intrude couple's life and push her unsolicited advice. Everything started on the day after the wedding. After their first passionate marriage night, the couple woke up at 7 a.m. to a persistent knock on the door. "Honey, do you have a meeting with someone?" asked Liza as she stretched out in bed. "The second day is arranged only for 5 p.m. Who came up so early?" "Nobody," answered the guy drowsily as he was getting up from the bed. "Relax, I'm going to look who came." Igor got out of bed, grumbling something irritably. Lisa was already falling asleep when she heard the familiar voice of Tamara Georgievna. "Are you sleeping? Did you see the time? Or do you think that I'm supposed to shoulder all responsibilities? It's your wedding, not mine, but you simply dumped all duties on me. What a great job you have done. Get dressed up now. Do you need to go to the market and buy some groceries for the second day? Where's your wifey? She's probably asleep. I've told you that she's a poor housekeeper." Elizabeth groaned grumpily, rising from the bed. Without any knocking or warning, her mother-in-law burst into the bedroom. "Aren't you tied up with celebration preparations? Do you think I'll do everything?" She glanced at Liza accusingly. "I knew that I had to take everything into my own matters and not rely on you. You would have been so late without my help. How lucky you're to have such a caring mother-in-law." Tamara looked at the young woman from head to toe, then leaned towards her, questioning, "Do you sleep with my son in that? If I were you, I would wear something else. This clothing makes you look very fat." Elizabeth stared at her husband in bewilderment, but he just pretended that he had heard nothing. She breathed out heavily and looked at mother-in-law. "You know, your son wasn't complaining about my sleeping gown this night. He pretty much appreciated it, and he even proved it a few times." Tamara Georgievna cringed at receiving such an answer, then swiftly headed out of the bedroom, announcing loudly, "You have 10 minutes to prepare. We've got a lot of tasks to finish before the arrival of the first guests. You don't want to embarrass me, do you?" The last phrase sounded especially threatening. The newlyweds were left alone. The young woman watched with confusion at her partner, who didn't say a single word to his mother in order to protect their boundaries or support his spouse. "Why didn't you say anything? Do you think her behavior is acceptable? How dare she invade our bedroom without asking or warning?" She's also worried about the occasion and only wants to help. She always treats any event with a high sense of responsibility. This is one of the most important days in her life because I'm her only son. I completely understand her. It will last only a few days, so please be a bit more patient. For me. And everything will be just as you wish. We will definitely buy our own house, get a puppy, and have a baby. And everything will be fine. Igor pulled the wife closer and kissed her. Elizabeth sighed nervously, but agreed with her husband. Nevertheless, she couldn't even imagine that things would only get worse. Tamara Georgievna continued visiting young couple every week, covering more and more new reasons. Some of them were way beyond ridiculous, and Lisa couldn't believe that her husband was convinced that his mother showed up not to simply monitor them. "Have you noticed that she comes to our place just like that, without any particular cause, to find some strange reason? For example, to check what I cooked for dinner, to check whether I ironed your suit for work, and so on. She even brushes every single surface to see that I wipe the dust. She's just unbearable." "Oh, come on, you're exaggerating," calmly answered Igor. She appeared to bring some clothes that you forgot at her house during our last visit. She was concerned that you might need them. Igor, she brought me 2 hair clips that I could pick up when we dropped by her house this weekend. This is just an excuse to actively control me. You seriously don't get it? She's clearly not happy that you separated and decided to enter adult life. Liz, don't be ridiculous. You're being too dramatic. Personally, I haven't noticed anything like that. She treats you remarkably and tells all her friends about her wonderful daughter-in-law. Yeah, but her constant nagging tells the opposite. Either I stir-fry the meat in the wrong way, or I make the creases on the trousers incorrectly, or I don't pay enough attention to you. When will she finally stop? Furthermore, she always criticizes any of my choices in clothes, food, or decoration. I haven't heard anything like that from her. From my own perspective, you're misunderstanding my mom's words and actions. She doesn't control you, but rather gives you advice on how to perform better. There's a huge family life experience that she's willing to share with you. Someone asked me if I needed her experience. I want to live a life on my own, without any outside tips or guidance, and learn from my own experience. The young woman's voice became more contentious. Notes of dissatisfaction revealed themselves, but went unnoticed by Igor. Fine, I'll ask her to not interfere in your life, okay? In our life, Igor, not only mine, we're one individual family, and your mother needs to realize that. She can't just show up at any time at our place, randomly rearrange anything, and throw away food that I prepared without my agreement. What gives her the right to do so? Well, she explained that she sensed a weird smell and assumed that it had gone bad. And you still can't forget it for her? The aroma from your Brussels sprout soup was indeed unusual. But the soup itself was very tasty, right? It was quite good, but I've told you that I prefer more traditional Russian cuisine. My mom likes it as well, and that's why she can't appreciate your culinary arts. Don't hold a grudge against her. Lisa rolled her eyes. Every time her husband found some sort of excuse when they talked about his mother, he always had an objection that turned the situation against his wife and made her look fussy and ungrateful, while Tamara Georgievna was simply a thoughtful mother who only wanted the best for her son. This position of Egor pretty much disturbed young women. Why do you always defend your mother? Why can't you take my side? You're my husband after all, and you decided to live this life with me to build a family. And what do we get, huh? It seems like I'm not as good as your mother, right? Oh my God, what nonsense. Have I ever told you that you're not good enough? Yes, never. After the wedding, you became so nervous and hysterical. You've never been like this before, seeking out everyone's flaws, initiating a scandal out of the blue, and blaming everything on my mom. What's wrong with you? Why did you become like this? Why did your mother act like this? She wasn't like that before our wedding either. She didn't put her nose into our relationship, and now she won't let me take a free step. We spend every weekend and holiday at her house. Even during your last sick leave, we visited her because the roof on the greenhouse needed to be changed. She just asked for help. I'm her only son, and who else should she ask for assistance if not me? Or do you think that my sisters must do this? You probably wouldn't be happy to carry heavy logs and do a man's job, right? So why shouldn't I help? I didn't mention that you shouldn't help your relatives. They're just too much in our life. They're my family. My mother and my sisters will be present in our life either way or another. Or do you want me to dodge communication with them, only because you have some odd, obsessive thoughts? Let's end the discussion before we have a full-blown fight. Igor quit the room, leaving a young woman more self-conscious in herself. He spoke so confidently and persuasively that Liza almost believed that something was wrong with her. A young woman became even more reserved. She tried not to stay alone with her mother-in-law in order to not trigger any conflicts and receive negative comments about her appearance, behavior, or cooking. The old woman felt like a winner since the young lady chose to comply and live by her rules. Only thinking about it made Tamara Georgievna glow, which forced her to act even worse. During the following visit, she came with her daughters and announced a distressing statement for Elizabeth. Snezhana and Elena are going to stay with you for some time. Since they live far away from the city center, it's challenging to get to work and school, Moreover, your apartment is empty and 2 rooms are unoccupied. It's also clear that there's no housewife in this house, so I wouldn't have to cook and clean, considering my weak legs. No one asked for your help. Liza claimed unexpectedly for everyone. It's up to you if you haven't discussed it with anyone. And yes, there's a housewife here. You shouldn't stress about it. She peered at her mother-in-law with animosity, who seemed not to notice it at all. Igor said that girls can stay at your place, Tamara Georgievna proclaimed, ignoring the young woman's frustration. Snezhana's job is located near your apartment, which is very convenient for her. She won't always be late anymore, and maybe she'll get a promotion. She gazed softly at her eldest daughter, who remained silent. And our Elena is studying here nearby. I don't want her to live in a dorm, so she'll live here as well. Besides, it'll be so much fun. Igor has such a close bond with his sisters, and loves them more than anyone in the world. Igor didn't inform me about his siblings staying. Wait a few minutes. I'll call him right away. Now look, what kind of wife are you? You could at least let us in and offer tea while we listen to your family squabbles. The young woman was stunned enough to speak, but she didn't have to, because Tamara Georgievna already went into the kitchen to prepare some tea, commanding the girls to follow her lead. Liza dialed her husband's number, trying not to let her anger out. Hello, there was a man's voice. You have something urgent? I'm swamped with work here, so if you want to discuss anything, let's do it when I'm back home, okay? No, this is urgent. Why didn't you tell me about your sisters? Why do I find out about it when they're already here with your mother in our apartment? Deep silence fell between them. It started to get awkward when a puzzled man spoke. I swear to you, I didn't know anything about their arrival. She didn't tell me anything. Well, I have something else. She assured me that you're well informed and simply didn't want to share with me. That's not true. I can't figure out what she's saying. Maybe you've been mistaken. Ask her again, or just wait until I come home. So you're telling me to put up with them for the whole day, entertain them while also listening to what a poor wife I'm? No thanks. I'm not really into it. You better call her right away and sort it out. All right, the man said briefly and put the phone down. After a few seconds, mother-in-law's phone was ringing. The young wife sneaked closely to the kitchen to hear everything under cover. For the first few seconds, the old woman listened to her son carefully and, in a slight pretended confusion, said gently, "Oh dear, I didn't tell her anything like that. I only asked her if the girls could stay at your place for some time, but she agreed to resolve such questions only with you. So we were waiting here for your final decision and didn't unpack anything. But if you don't agree with this, that's okay. We'll leave immediately. I fully understand that you've got your own family now." You should be ashamed for lying like that. All of a sudden, Elizabeth showed up from the kitchen door, making the old woman flinch. You sweared a few minutes ago that Igor knew everything, and it was him who allowed girls to stay in apartments for as long as they wanted. Now you're telling him the opposite. Don't you feel downright disgusted by your constant lies? Tamara Georgievna was flabbergasted and frantically tried to figure out something. But Igor's voice from the phone finally broke the silence. "Mom, it's true. You always used to say that the greatest truth is honesty, and the greatest falsehood is dishonesty. And now you're breaking your own morals. Darling, maybe Liza and I just misunderstood each other. Maybe it's my fault, or maybe your missus didn't understand me correctly. You know, it happens all the time. Just tell me, is it fine for your sisters to stay with you, or shall we leave?" Liza couldn't hear her husband's answer, but the smile on the old woman's face made everything obvious. Right at this moment, she realized that her life would never be what she wished for. There will always be obstacles that will prevent her dreams from coming true. The young woman felt a tear rolling down her cheek. She turned swiftly, covering her face from those around her. She wasn't ready to accept her mother-in-law's superiority, and therefore escaped into her bedroom, trying to distract herself by immersing herself in the book. She didn't explain to Igor anything when he came home in the evening. The young woman was simply exhausted and didn't want to beg for sympathy, leaving the situation alone. At the same time, the man acted as if nothing happened, and it was overwhelming. Therefore, Liza decided to distance herself from everything and live just like that, without recognizing her bugging mother-in-law and husband's sisters, who acted as full-fledged owners of her house. But this plan didn't work out for a long time because Tamara Georgievna chose to test her bride's patience, creating a huge scandal. In order to unwind and distract herself from all her present problems, Liza went shopping at a boutique that she visited often before the wedding. She was forced to give up her frequent purchases because it wasn't the cheapest option, and the couple saved finances for the future house. However, money was the most insignificant concern, with an array of numerous issues and troubles that she had. She just wanted to have fun and enjoy herself. Her mental state was in peace and glee when she tried different dresses, scarves, berets, and jackets. But she would never think about her sacrifice for those happy moments that waited for her in the evening. Liza came home in a good spirit. She put her packages in the hallway and headed towards the room to change clothes. Suddenly she felt a glance at her back, and when she turned around, she saw Igor, who was standing in the living room with a bouquet of flowers. "I thought that I didn't pay enough attention to you lately and wanted to delight you. I bought your favorite flowers, left the job early, and booked us a table in the restaurant. I'm giving you 40 minutes for preparation." He reached out to hug his wife, and at that moment the front door creaked. The man froze, staying unnoticed by the uninvited guest, and Liza meticulously peered into the hallway, recognizing who it was. She sighed heavily, and the smile immediately disappeared from her face. It was so sad that Tamara Georgievna was able to ruin the mood with her only presence. To Elizabeth's greatest regret, it was exactly her standing on the threshold. "Why are you always so gloomy when I come to your place?" Tamara Georgievna began scolding. "Do you meet your husband from the work with the same face? Now I get why he's in no hurry to come back. I wouldn't come to you either, but I can't let my son live in your messy surroundings and eat your crap. It's good enough that you dressed up. Otherwise you look horrible. My son can easily find someone else. He's a good-looking man." "Yes, good evening, Tamara Georgievna. How have you been?" "Mind your own business. Don't even think about it. I've been great." All of a sudden, the old woman's gaze fell on Elizabeth's bags with her new attire. She pulled out a beret, observing it with repulsion. Then she put it on herself, and looking in the mirror, she admired the result. On top of that, the old woman began to take out the remaining clothes, scanning each of them. Liza was already boiling, so she approached her mother-in-law, confiscated the jacket, and folded it back in the bag. "You look very good in this beret. I can gift it to you if you want. I also purchased a second, similar one. It has a nice fabric in addition to a trendy color. Unfortunately, other clothes won't fit you because of our distinct body shapes. I can show you the store where I bought everything, and you'll probably find something for yourself." "Humph, I don't want to waste any money on rags. Me and my daughters aren't stinking rich like you." "This store isn't as expensive as you assumed. The clothes are just created with a high quality, so it seems like a premium segment." Liza smiled, waiting for some positive reaction to her gift or suggestion, but achieved another scolding. "Are you out of your mind or what? I told you already that I don't have extra money. Since today's expenses are nothing for you, I'll take everything." "What do you mean? These are my clothes. Furthermore, most of them won't fit you. Don't you get it? You have enough. Why would you need new ones?" shouted mother-in-law with outrage. "I will take for my daughters and myself. You will be fine without them." She grabbed the bag in an attempt to take it, but the young woman was holding it tightly. "What are you doing? Why am I supposed to share my clothes with your daughters? Snezhana has a job and is fully capable of buying clothes for herself." Elizabeth was looking at her mother-in-law with perplexity, still not releasing the grip. She noticed how mother-in-law's face was filled with annoyance. "Give me the bag, goddammit." She dragged it so intensively that the bag was torn apart. The outfits were scattered all over the floor. "What the hell are you doing?" cried the old woman while bending to pick up clothes. "And don't stick your nose into others' business. My daughter's salary isn't your concern." "Then you also mind your business. My finances and my spending are only my concerns. Why should I donate my buyings to someone if you don't have any clue as to how much I spent?" "Enough," shouted Tamara Georgievna. "I said that I'd take clothes, and if you'll stand against me, I'm going to tell my son that you went completely nuts. kicked me out, and even punched me. I'm sure he wouldn't appreciate such an attitude towards his mother, and you'll be left with nothing. Want to sacrifice your family happiness for the Gias?" She gazed at the young woman with spite and malevolence, giving her the shivers. Elizabeth gave up without any intention to continue the conflict, and wanted to hide from the old woman's hostility. And in this particular moment, Igor stepped into the hallway, becoming an involuntary witness to the incident. His gaze, filled with doubt and pain, was fixed on his mother, who frantically kept collecting the clothes so that Liza wouldn't have a chance to take everything to herself. There were a few moments left when she finally saw that young woman wasn't alone. She lifted her eyes and froze in a fluster. "Darling?" Her voice trembled. She realized that Igor had witnessed everything, so there's no way to justify her behavior. "Why didn't you say anything about you coming early? I could make your favorite crepes." "Mom, what on earth happened now? Why do you talk to Liza like that? Why do you act like that? I don't recognize you. Don't tell me that my wife's words about you were genuine. Every time I wouldn't believe her, finding more and more excuses for you. I just can't believe it." No, it's not true." The old woman's look descended. "I was just really tired today. Some teenagers made offensive comments about me, and I hit my foot when I got up from the bed this morning. The day turned out horrible. That's why I exploded. I'm sorry, I mean it. I can't figure out how it could happen. I'm not the one to whom you should apologize. But to Liza, who was seriously upset with your attitude, would you really ruin our marriage for some rubbish? What's your problem? You truly believe that girls would wear those clothes after knowing how you got them? I highly doubt it. Give my wife her clothes now." "Of course, darling, I'm not like that. You know me so well. I just lost my temper. But these clothes, they just don't look flattering on Liza, and I wanted to take those that don't suit her so she wouldn't get any judgments. Nothing more. I wouldn't give them to girls or wear them myself, but rather donate them to those in need." "Mom, my wife's style isn't your problem. If she likes it, she can wear whatever she wants and wherever she's willing to. Your worrying is out of place here. Please forgive me. I'll try to be more restrained further." The old woman stared at Liza with loathing and through clenched teeth said, "I'm sorry. It will never happen again. I have to go to my friend. I promised her to help select the curtains." After the last sentence, the old woman put on her shoes, grabbed her outerwear on the way, and hurriedly exited the apartment. Igor and Lisa were left alone. "I hope you don't believe in your mother's absurdity, do you?" "What do you mean by absurdity? Everyone has a bad day. She just lost control. We can forgive her for the first time besides. She promised it would never happen again." The man was surprisingly calm. "It's not a bad day. She always acts like that. I don't think that every single time is as terrible as today's. I wanted to let her know that my trust isn't the same anymore." The man's undisturbed and cold composure were literally troubling. "You don't understand. She bullies me on purpose," yelled Liza at her own husband. "Why can't you see the blinding obvious?" She sighed heavily, trying to calm down, and after a few seconds, she continued more coolly. "Either you are solving this issue, or we are getting divorced." Igor's eyes widened. He looked at his spouse in disbelief, attempting to grasp whether she spoke sincerely or not. The young woman's confidence was undeniable, which was reflected in her steady gaze. "Are you serious? You're ready to ruin our future plans only because of one incident with my mother? This is foolishness." "Exactly. We won't have any future with your mother. You have to choose. Either you sustain a good relationship with me or remain a mama's boy and return to her. You've got time to think until the next morning." After the last phrase, the young woman threw on her coat, put on sneakers, and left the apartment. She spent the night at her friend's place to ponder carefully. Igor didn't call. In the morning, Liza discovered neither the man's belongings nor his sister's. It hurt so much that it caused everything inside to burn. However, she accepted his decision. She wasn't looking for him. She just decided to draw the line and let the man go as she continued to live her life full of ambitions and dreams.